Hi, I'm Dr. Richards, and this is the Ask the Joy Doctor show. Welcome to I think, sixth episode of our program. So, I have a question. The question is in line with Valentine's Day, which is on Friday. The question is, how do you know that you have met your true love? How do you know that you have met your true love? Well, I'm going to tell you this is a very personal decision. So sometimes you might not even know that you have met your true love until you spent your entire life with them. What I see with people is that couples tend to, in the beginning of their relationship, have friction as they adjust to each one doing it differently, and they need to now decide how to do things together. So there's a lot of friction. I see a lot of people end relationships during that period of time, maybe the first 7 years, as you're deciding, squeeze the toothpaste at the top or the bottom. Does the toilet paper go on uh, on the top or at the bottom? When they're trying to figure out those things, is it hot in here or is it cold? Should we turn the air up or not? Leave the window open or closed? When they're trying to figure out things like that, I think that they have a real difficult time. And then on top of that, when you have children, children bring a lot of energy into the relationship, but they also can sow discord as you have to now talk to them, discipline them in one accord. Another reason why there's strife at the beginning of that relationship is sometimes there's competition. Um, so I'm saying this for a reason. You might not know that this is your true love during those periods of time. You may have fallen in love, felt the warm, gooey feelings and the butterflies, but then you get married and you start having these tensions. So right then you might question, is this really my true love? But as marriage goes on, couples tend to become more like each other. And so in middle marriage, in the maybe 20, 25 year mark, you start to see that couples are more alike than they are different. Do you know a long-term couple who maybe even looks alike? I had an aunt and uncle who they looked alike. They looked like they fit together. So you grow into that relationship where you stop striving and competing. The children are out of the home, and you can see each other for who you are, and you begin to accept each other. And then finally, toward the end of life, some people, I'm going to say, some people realize at that point, yeah, you're not the one for me after all, and they've grown apart because they've not talked with each other, truly talked with each other. They've talked about the business of being married and having children, but they don't talk to each other about their goals and desires and their hearts and how their thinking has changed. So that's a thing where I've seen during that time, people make some decisions that I only live once, I'm unhappy, and I'm moving on. So, but if you make it to the end, you can pretty much determine that was probably my true love. Yeah, you can settle. Some people can settle, and maybe they're in this and they don't feel like they have any other options. But even with that, there's something beautiful about the commitment. And if you committed that long, you're more likely than not your true mates. Okay, let me get back. That's not the answer you were expecting. I am pretty sure. I think you were thinking I was going to list, oh, he has good qualities, like she is trustworthy and honest, or he is a giver and has a great heart, or um, he is b- uh, faithful to me. All of those are terrific. But I'm going to tell you, number two, what real love is not is all the lists that you create. Some people create ridiculous lists, like the person has to be 6 feet 5. Listen, there are not even a lot of people who are 6 feet in general. So you shrink your pool of eligibles when you do that. And so finding your soulmate or the one that's your true love becomes even more difficult when you have really high or too high standards. You should have good high standards, but too high standards. But back to this list, when you make this list, it may be this person you meet may be perfect on paper. They may meet all of your criteria. The problem is that there's no spark, there's no juice, there's no energy in the relationship. So you can't just go by those things: good character, um, fidelity, honesty, um, good work habits. You can't go by those alone. Let's see. The other thing that you have to consider about your true love is that a lot of people mistake great sex for being in love. That tingly feeling that you get inside, but everything else may be a mess. Hear me, good sex is a plus. But when you are in a relationship where that is the thing that moves you, that there are no other good, of course, there are going to be some good characteristics, but you don't have the depth of relationship where you know each other very well and get each other very well and work together with each other very well and have the spark and have the good qualities that I previously mentioned. um, Sex is not enough to sustain you. I think one of the things that's really useful in marriages to identify your true love is a sense of humor. You are going to need a sense of humor to get through this life. And so things will happen to you all as a couple, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be, tough to work through. But having a sense of humor sometimes can be the grease, the thing that makes that squeaky wheel, smooth again. So having a good sense of humor and being able to laugh at yourselves and be playful, I think goes a long, long way to identifying your true love. Let's see. What else? I have noticed that people, when you're looking for your true love, people will choose people who are actually, I call it fool's gold. You're looking for gold, but instead you dig up fool's gold. Gold is the person with the characteristics that you like, with the spark that you like, with the sense of humor that you like, with the commitment and longevity that you like in the relationship. Fool's gold can be anything short of that. For example, I've worked with women who are in affairs and they're promised the world, but they can't give you the weekend or the holidays, right? They may be getting jewelry and a lot of attention and, again, good sex, but they don't have them in the evening, or they don't have, mm, they don't have, they can't have the children with them, or they have to wait until the children that he has with someone else or grows up, or she can't leave him because she'll lose custody. So you only have kind of half of a relationship. It doesn't even have to be an affair. You can be in a relationship with someone, and as you observe, they don't do very much in terms of chores, or they don't pay much attention to the kids, or all they do is work and watch sports, and you're a, what is it, football widow around this time. So it just depends. Are you getting your needs met in this relationship? If you're not getting your needs met in this relationship, it's likely not true love, and more likely that it is fool's gold. So we were talking about true love. I think the best depiction of true love is written in, I think, 1 Corinthians 13. It's when you are self-sacrificing, but not to the extent that you harm yourself, that you are caring, that you speak kindly to each other, that you do good things for each other, that you consider the needs of the whole, whether it's the couple or the entire family. Um, True love is when you don't begrudge someone something, you don't compete with them, you don't feel badly when something bad, pardon me, you don't feel great when something bad happens to them. You don't feel the need to always defend yourself with them. You don't feel the need to uh, talk back to them or challenge them all the time, even if they're wrong. Listen, true love has to understand that each of us is growing at our own pace. And so um, you may be ahead of that person, but you can't drag them along. They have to come to certain realizations on their own. So I think true love also gives you space to grow into through the relationship. That at each stage of the relationship, each of you are growing, and it may not be at the same pace. But true love can tolerate that. Now, that's not to say you don't ask for what you need or want or set boundaries, because those boundaries are the things that help people to grow, right? Um, that you will not tolerate this, and there will be a consequence if this happens. And those consequences are self protective and not punitive, although the other person may feel punished by it. But that if you enable your partner by not setting boundaries, then this relationship may not be true love, because that person is not growing, and you don't know. Another thing that I see happen is people will come to me, and they don't argue. They never argue. Their parents argued, and they don't want to argue because arguing is, I don't know, destructive, may end in divorce. But I've got to tell you, that is not true love either. True love requires that you tell people the truth about yourself, and that what you believe and feel and need, as well as you hold the other person accountable when they are in the wrong. Of course, you also want to build them up, or compliment them when they're in the right. But I think for this particular set of couple where they don't want to argue and they think that it's true love because they're not arguing, that's not true love. In fact, those are the relationships where people come to me, one person comes to me and said, she asked for a divorce. I didn't even know there was anything wrong in our relationship. Yeah. That it feels like a sucker punch because you had put all your eggs in this basket thinking everything was copacetic, and it was not. So sometimes it's true love when things are going wrong. Yes. Um, Sometimes it's the growth process. Like, I know a lot of people want to be out of relationship, and I thought for sure I'd be out of a relationship if someone cheated on me. But it just depends. If this is a marriage, particularly, and the persons are wanting to work on the relationship, truly work on the relationship. As a therapist, I have seen this and I have worked with couples to the point where they figured out what was missing in their relationship. And because they did, they worked on it in therapy, and their relationship ended up being stronger than when it started out. I'm going to give you an example. For example, sometimes people find out that they weren't communicating properly. Maybe this is the thing people do. I met you and you were like this, and I expect that over the years you're going to stay like this. But this person is growing just like you're growing. And when they start to tell you something about themselves, you cut them off and say, "Oh, yeah, this is who you are." And so they clam up and they don't tell you the new things that are going through their minds and souls. And then you come to this end and they're like, "You don't really know me. You really know who I was. And you have not been really hearing me and listening to me. So I found somebody who will listen to me, or I just need to get out of this relationship so that I can be heard because I'm in a totally different place than you are." So, um, true love means that you listen and allow people to grow. And because they're growing, because they're changing, doesn't mean anything is wrong. It means that they're human as you are. You might not notice that you're growing and changing, but you're also growing and changing. Um, and if you can get through the mismatch you might sometimes have because you're growing at different rates, um, that person may very well be your soulmate, even though you have differences. I mean, arguing or literal differences, you may very well be the soulmate because you are. It's almost like they say, the water constantly beating down on the rock smooths out the rugged edges. I think that happens in marriages too, that life beats us a little bit, relationships challenge us, and we get smoothed out in the end. So I didn't have a short answer for you in terms of what indicates that you have met your true love. It's a more complicated answer, and I bet there is more to it than I have even said already. Um, your true love should never be um, put you down, should never be abusive, verbally or physically, right? Your true love should be kind to you and caring and concerned and generous to you. Yeah. Well, I just popped in to honor the holiday that's coming up, which is Valentine's Day. And truthfully, I wanted to ask you all a question today. The question I would like to ask you is, what was your love story? I love, love, love hearing love stories. So if you would, when I post this in the comments, feel free to share your love story. How did you meet? And how did you know that it was true love? This is Dr. Michelle Richards. I am the This is the Ask the Joy Doctor program. I meet every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. We would love to have a live audience, so feel free to join me and ask your questions. Of course, I can't do therapy with you, but I can answer your general questions. I'd love to see you. Take care until then, and remember, discover your joy for life.